casting on. Now there are two different methods, the Longtail Cast On, which gives a nicer finish, and the one that I used when I first started knitting, that I call the easy method. Both work well, and both have a very nice appearance. To cast on, you will need a single knitting needle. You can use double pointed or single pointed. This is a US 8 or a 5mm, and you will need a ball of yarn. This is just a regular DK weight in an acrylic with a nice variegated pattern. Now then, to do the easy method of casting on, you take your needle and your yarn, and you're going to tie a slip knot. Any knot would work, but I find the slip knot works the best. To do that, all you have to do is take and make a loop, put your fingers through that loop, grab the tail end of the yarn, and pull that through. And pull it tight, but you don't want it so tight that it can't move freely. That is the slip knot. That then goes on the needle, and you pull it tight. Again, not super tight, just snug. I use my last three fingers to hold that in place so I don't get the tail end of the yarn confused with the working end of the yarn. Now to cast on, you simply grab the yarn, flip it over on itself, and place on the needle and pull snug, keeping them going in the right order. If you've ever done any knot work with rope, this is the exact same thing as a half hitch. Now you just repeat that until you get the desired number of stitches, in our case 5. So the slip knot counts as 1, 2, 3, 4, and finally 5. Now it is very important that you do not snug those down super tight, or it will be very difficult to knit your first row when you get to that point. So keep them snug, but loose enough to get your other needle through them. You have now cast on 5 stitches. So if you use the easy method of cast on, after you knit a few rows, and I use garter stitch more than any other stitch when it comes to knitting, but after you knit a few rows, this is what the base will look like. It's not exactly straight across, it's kind of loopy, but it is there. And it is, once you knit your project, if it's a blanket, a hat, socks, whatever it happens to be, you're not necessarily going to notice that little bit of waver. So it's a perfectly good cast on. It's a great way to learn and get comfortable and just know how you're holding your needles and knitting. Now for the Longtail Cast On. It requires a little bit more forethought, but it's worth it because it gives you a more clean finish. I still have to pull mine out sometimes and restart because I've miscalculated, but it is definitely worth it. Here's how you do it. Begin by putting the yarn over your 2 fingers like so, and holding it like that. Then you take your needle, and you come down here, and you pull the yarn around until you've made a circuit so it completely goes around the knitting needle. That is your first stitch. Do not get these super tight, just snug. Then you take the point of the needle and you come under the yarn that's underneath your thumb, up over the yarn that comes from your forefinger, back under and through the loop at your thumb. Slide your thumb out and pull it snug, just barely snug. The tighter you do it will look cleaner, but you will have difficulty getting your needle through it when you come to knit. So we have now done 2 of our 5 stitches. Then repeat. Under the one under the thumb, up and around, over the one under your forefinger, back under the loop from your thumb, pull your thumb out, pull it snug. Now you've done 3. again makes 4, and finally 5. You have now cast on 5 using the long tail method. That is called that because you end up with a longer tail that you weave in, trim up later. But it gives you the cast on and your first row done at the same time, saving you time. Now on the long tail cast on, after you've knit a few rows, again I'm using garter stitch, this is what it turns into. You have a very obvious straight line. It's a lot more clean, very compact. The tighter you cast them on, the narrower that's going to be, regardless of your number of stitches. It's just going to end up being tighter. So if you're looking for a fancy ending to whatever you're knitting, this would be the cast on of choice. Again, you just take your ends, weave them in, and then cut them, so you'll never see that on there.